79-year-old missing.
It was a typical Labor Day weekend in 1994.
No new findings today, and that's why law enforcement say that they're packing up and suspending the ground search.
But for the residents of a small Ohio town, everything was about to change. The peaceful farming community of Port Washington, Ohio, was suddenly thrown into chaos when Ruth Loader, a 79-year-old widow, vanished without a trace. The night before, she had been seen by family members, and everything seemed normal. But by the next morning, her car was gone, and so was she. Authorities immediately feared the worst. Marks on the back door indicated forced entry, making it clear that Ruth had been kidnapped. With the possibility of her life hanging in the balance, the local sheriff's office worked relentlessly, deploying search teams and volunteers in the hopes of finding Ruth alive. As hours turned into days, authorities expanded the search across state lines, and a chilling realization dawned. A crime spree was underway. Ruth's red Buick was found 650 miles west in a muddy field in Missouri, abandoned and stripped of vital clues. This discovery marked the beginning of a nationwide manhunt, as authorities raced against time to stop a pair of suspected spree killers. What began as a quiet weekend had now become a nationwide nightmare. The stakes were high, and with every passing moment, the hunt for the killers escalated. FBI agents and local authorities joined forces, hoping to prevent any more innocent lives from being lost. On August 29, 1994, the quiet town of Port Washington, Ohio, was rocked by the sudden disappearance of Ruth Loader, a 79-year-old widow battling cancer. Ruth had been living alone, and her family checked on her regularly. But that night, something went horribly wrong. Ruth's family had visited the night before and found her in good health. The next morning, her son-in-law and sister came to check on her, but found the house eerily silent. The back door showed signs of forced entry, indicating Ruth hadn't left voluntarily. Her purse was left behind, but her car was missing, along with her medication, which was crucial for her health. This raised the immediate concern that Ruth had been abducted. With no leads and a growing sense of fear in the community, local authorities sprang into action. The Tuscarawas County Sheriff's Office, led by Sheriff Walter Wilson, issued an all-points bulletin for Ruth and her red Buick, hoping that quick action might save her life. Volunteers, neighbors, and local authorities searched for Ruth, but as time passed, there were no signs of her or the missing car. The investigation had only just begun, and the mystery deepened as the search expanded beyond the town. As August 30, 1994 rolled in, the search for Ruth Loader intensified. With no sign of Ruth or her car, authorities feared she had been kidnapped. The investigation quickly expanded beyond local law enforcement as the FBI joined the effort, launching a nationwide hunt. A trail of stolen vehicles and murder victims across 7 states pointed to a possible spree killer on the loose. The FBI was racing against time to stop the killings. The stolen red Buick was discovered 650 miles away in Fulton, Missouri, abandoned in a muddy field. Investigators hoped it would yield crucial clues, but the car's discovery only raised more questions. Inside, a green soda bottle and a sandwich wrapper from Goshen Dairy near Ruth's house were found, linking the crime to a broader pattern of violence. The FBI now faced a daunting task, finding the killers before they struck again. With each passing hour, the urgency grew. Ruth's disappearance, combined with the trail of stolen cars and victims, made it clear that 2 suspects were on the move. The FBI's priority was to predict their next move and stop them before more lives were lost. The search for Ruth Loader escalated on August 30, 1994, as the small Ohio community united in their pursuit. With Ruth's car and medication missing, the fear of her being in grave danger was palpable. Sheriff Walter Wilson led the investigation, and the entire town rallied to help. Neighbors, volunteers, and local authorities formed a command center at the Port Washington Fire Station, organizing search efforts throughout the rough terrain. Mounted reserve units, K-9 teams, and local police scoured fields and woods. The Ohio State Highway Patrol even deployed aircraft to search from the skies, but the search turned up nothing. Every resource was exhausted, yet no sign of Ruth or her car emerged. As the day wore on, The sheriff's office issued flyers and alerted the media to expand the search outside the immediate area. The fear was growing. Every hour Ruth was missing made it less likely she'd be found alive. But the community remained hopeful and determined. They couldn't stop searching. Ruth's family and the entire town desperately needed answers. By August 31, 1994, the investigation took a darker turn. In Fulton, Missouri, nearly 650 miles away from Ohio, Ruth Loder's red Buick was found abandoned in a farmer's muddy field. Authorities suspected Ruth's kidnappers were on the move, but the discovery of the car only deepened the mystery. The car's contents, a green soda bottle and a sandwich wrapper from Goshen Dairy, close to Ruth's home, gave investigators a potential link, but still no solid clues. Then, on September 1, 1994, the case took a shocking twist. Investigators discovered the bodies of William Brewer, 86, and Flossie Brewer, 76, in the basement of their home. The couple had been brutally murdered, shot multiple times in the head with a .22 caliber weapon, the same type of gun missing from Eric Elliott's home in Ohio. The connection to Ruth's case was now clear. These murders were linked. With 2 confirmed homicides, the FBI intensified its efforts. Investigators feared the killers were on the run and would not stop until they were caught. Ruth's fate remained uncertain, but the double homicide was a devastating clue that pointed to a growing spree of violence. By September 2, 1994, authorities were certain. The pair responsible for Ruth Loder's disappearance were also behind a string of murders. Eric Elliott, a 16-year-old teenager from Ohio, and Louise Gilbert, a 22-year-old ex-convict, had become the prime suspects. Their crime spree was not stopping. They had already murdered 2 people in Missouri, and now Ruth's case was adding to their bloody trail. Authorities uncovered disturbing details about the suspect's journey. Elliott and Gilbert had been seen together at a local Goshen Dairy store near Ruth's home. Investigators confirmed they were traveling together, and soon after, they had stolen multiple vehicles and committed multiple murders. They were on the run. With the FBI now involved, investigators raced against time, knowing the pair could strike again at any moment. Gilbert and Elliott were heading west, likely planning to continue their spree, leaving a trail of violence in their wake. As the hunt stretched across state lines, local law enforcement feared they were always one step behind. The killers had no plans of stopping. By September 6, 1994, after a week-long manhunt across several states, the FBI and local authorities were closing in on the suspected spree killers, Louise Gilbert and Eric Elliott. The pair had been on the run for days, leaving a trail of stolen vehicles and murder victims in their wake. But they were getting desperate. The fugitives had traveled from Ohio, through Missouri, and into Oklahoma, all while evading capture. Authorities received tips that the suspects had recently been in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and were likely still in the area. On September 6, New Mexico State Police received a report of 2 men matching their descriptions. They had been hitchhiking and had recently been seen near a desolate stretch of highway. A search was quickly organized. In the dead of night, officers located the suspects hiding near a culvert. As they approached, Gilbert and Elliott reached for their weapons. But just in time, the officers acted swiftly, arresting them without further violence. The nationwide manhunt had finally come to an end after 1,800 miles and 6 days of relentless pursuit. With their arrest, the FBI breathed a sigh of relief. The killing spree was over, but the search for Ruth Loder's body remained. Authorities still had no closure for her family, as Gilbert and Elliott remained silent about her final resting place. After September 6, 1994, the arrest of Louise Gilbert and Eric Elliott brought some closure to the violent spree that had terrorized the nation, but it also left unsettling questions unanswered. The pair had confessed to the murders of several victims, including the brutal killings of William and Flossie Brewer in Missouri and Roxy Ruddle in Oklahoma, but Ruth Loder's body remained missing. Gilbert's confession confirmed that Ruth Loder had been abducted, driven to a remote location, and murdered with the same .22 caliber weapon used in other killings. However, despite the details Gilbert provided about the crimes, he refused to reveal the location of her body. In the days following their arrest, the FBI led extensive searches across the areas Gilbert had mentioned. but Ruth's remains were never found. Her family was left without closure, holding onto the hope that someday her body might be recovered. Gilbert and Elliot were both convicted of the murders and sentenced to life in prison, but Ruth's case remained open, a haunting reminder of the spree that claimed multiple lives across several states. Ruth Loder's family continued to grieve, waiting for the day they could finally lay her to rest. Don't miss out on the next jaw-dropping story. In our upcoming video, we dive deep into the incredible story of how a mastermind outsmarted the authorities. You won't believe the twists and turns. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you're the first to watch this shocking new episode. Hit the bell icon and stay ahead of the game. See you in the next one.